When it comes to metal frame cabinet doors, you know how your design should look and function, but you're not quite sure how it should be built. You want a thin, elegant frame, no ugly hinges, tight door gaps, and most importantly, a clear instruction set for your builder to realize that vision. We're going to share a metal door detail that we've developed and implemented across our projects. We'll highlight the problem with conventional methods, our solution, and provide detailed shop drawings that you can download in a free resource below. Let's get started by diving into the common problems of achieving a beautiful metal door design like I've just highlighted here. So you want metal cabinet doors, and in this case with glass inserts, but you don't want any of the following. Firstly, for this design, we don't want any visible hinges. We have some pivot hinges here and butt hinges on these doors. Now, these hinges aren't ugly, but in your design and application, they will not fly. The second problem is we do not want large door gaps between doors. So on this example, we have a large gap between the top and the bottom door to accommodate the pivot plate. And over this side, we have a large door gap once those doors have been installed down the side so that the door doesn't foul on the adjacent cabinet. The third thing we're trying to mitigate is we don't want to see any hinges through the glass. This is a Bloom aluminium frame hinge, and even when the door is closed, you'll see that hinge cup through that glass. Fourthly, we do not want a lack of soft close. So we want the door to be able to soft close, because not having soft close is a far from ideal experience for the user. We also don't want this lack of adjustment. We want to be able to tweak the door, especially over time. It's going to help with longevity and maintenance. And finally, we don't want to use aluminium. Now, there are some really good aluminium profiles, especially from European manufacturers, but in this case, we want something steel or brass, so that aluminium option is not going to work. To solve all these problems, let's go through what our solution looks like. As a summary, we're going to use a hinge from Solici called the Air Hinge. The outside is going to have a 25 by 25 mil equal angle metal frame, whether that is steel, brass, bronze, 24 karat gold, whatever it is. Does someone extrude or make 24 karat gold frames out there? That would be cool. Maybe someone in the Middle East wants us to do that for them. 4 to 6 mil thick glass inserts. So the glass that will put into the doors will be 4 to 6 mil thick. And we're going to have a 21 mil thick MDF backing frame, as well as a 25 mil thick or more carcass construction. So that is the cabinet, the carcass that the doors will attach to. That's a quick summary of the solution. Let's get into each one of those components. We're going to work step by step, right? So we have our cabinet design, and it's all going to start with this 21 mil thick MDF frame. Now, this is an MDF frame which has been 2-pack painted, which is why it's green. And I've pulled this little shop drawing detail to show you that this little highlighted section is that MDF frame. And it does have a glass rebate on the front. So there's a little step down there for the glass. And on this CAD view, you can see the mortise in the back of the frame where our hinge will go into. This will all become clearer as I go step by step. So let's move on then to that glass insert. So we have here a bit of fluted glass. I think that's usually 5 mil thick. We use a little bit of glue in the rebate before putting the glass into that 21 mil MDF frame that's been routed, mortised, and 2-pack painted. The beauty of this glass insert is that it adds rigidity to this frame. You can imagine a piece of MDF, it's going to be rather flimsy, but once you glue this glass in, it's going to be quite strong. Next step, we have our, in this case, steel frame. So it's 25 mil by 25 mil equal angle that has been welded together into a square frame, and it then caps over that MDF backing frame which we prepared with the glass insert in it. This frame, in this case, is a powder-coated finish, so it's not a raw steel or blackened steel. But like I said, it can be brass, bronze, or whatever else. Next step, the carcass needs to be built out of 25 mil thick material. That allows the mortise for the Salici air hinge to go in with still plenty of room within that carcass structure to accommodate the weight of the door. So on this example, we have 4 of these Salici air hinges on this cabinet, and this little pink highlight there shows the hinge mortised in. Next, we have the actual Salici air hinge. So this is our hinge. It's a one-piece hinge on both sides. So we fit that into the door first. That's the mortise of the door. Before then, hanging the door into the carcass, like so. The beauty of this hinge is that it is actually soft closing and it does offer a little bit of adjustment, though not as much as a conventional Blum cabinet hinge. And like that, the doors are installed, adjusted, and completed. That's really it. That is the meat and the potatoes of our solution. Specific to this cabinet, we have a little finger pull detail there. It's just a little edge rebate that we did on the door. And we have a little LED strip in here, not MDF, LED. Okay, little bonus here. On this job, we had 2 tall doors. And so to accommodate the extra weight and to make sure that we have some support in the center of the door and it's not too flimsy, we added a 3rd hinge. And the way that we added that hinge is by adding a fixed shelf on the carcass, which means we can mortise that hinge into the fixed shelf, as well as a horizontal rail within the door, both in the frame as well as the steel on the face of the door. With the steel on the face, that is just a piece of flat plate, not angle. And we glued 2 separate bits of glass in to get that look. Then we have our second bonus, which is an example shop drawing. So this is a shop drawing for this little cabinet up here that we've just seen. It is a powder coated steel frame. So this isn't brass or any other kind of metal. And we have all the details here for how we actually built this room. So for example, I've highlighted here in this little pink box, our section details for the top of the door, the center of the door, and the bottom of the door, so you can refer to those. We also have these drawings for the metal frame, so that should help you with working out how to provide that instruction set. On this particular door, we had these 2 little handles that have been welded onto the face of the door, so they're just steel angles. In plan, we have also our set out for the Salici air hinge routing, and this diagram that we've copied in from Salici into our shop drawing. So that's just a little bonus there for you to reference against. Okay, so let's look at what are the actual benefits of this solution. So first of all, the hinges will only be visible when the doors are open, and they won't be visible from the outside of the door. So if I scroll all the way back up to here, you'll see that with pivot hinges or with butt hinges, that the hinges are visible from the outside. And with this style of Blum hinge, for example, you can see that both from the outside looking in because of this round hinge cup, but also inside when you open the door. Now let's contrast that to the Salici air hinge. When the doors are closed, you won't see that. That's covered by the frame, by the carcass, and in this case, by that fixed shelf. And even when the doors are open, I mean, it's quite an elegant look. It's not like a standard cabinet making, it's not a standard looking cabinet hinge. Our second benefit is that we can still retain really nice, small 2 to 3 mil wide door gaps. If we're using a butt hinge or if we're using pivot hinges, usually those gaps need to be bigger. Now, we can get into custom engineered solutions with offset pivots, rebating the pivots into the top and bottom of the door, using really specialty hinges, but that involves a lot of custom metal fabrication. Third benefit is that the hinges aren't visible through the glass. So like I said before with this Blum hinge, even when you look through the front of the door through the glass, you're going to see this hinge, whereas here you will not when the doors are closed. Number 4, the doors are soft close. Now this is a big thing, and I say it's a big thing in terms of the user experience. People using cabinet doors in 2026 expect that the doors are soft close. No one is going to expect the door to slam shut when you close it. So having soft close on a steel door, I think really elevates the user experience. It also adds a function of holding the door closed. If you're just swinging freely on a butt hinge or a pivot hinge, you then need to do latches or magnets to actually hold the door closed. So there is that additional little benefit, that secret benefit that only you and I know, because I haven't actually written it down there. And finally, there is the adjustment in the door. Now, Tom here is that Steve? That tattoo looks like Steve. I think it's Tom. Could be Steve. Tom or Steve, they're screwing in this hinge, so they're not actually adjusting it, but you can see that there's a little adjustment screw there, and there's another one over there. So you do get some adjustment, albeit not as much as a standard cabinet hinge. Next, okay, the steel/brass frame in this design is actually non-structural. What that means is, especially if we have a brass frame, that we don't need to worry about the soft non-structural nature of brass. So if we just jump ahead to the next point, this is a beautiful, beautiful custom pivot design that was done by Custom Industrial. But in order to deal with the non-structural nature of the brass, there was a lot of things that Derwent had to do to make that work. In this case, the MDF frame with the glazing bracing the MDF is enough for the structure. And the brass or the steel frame that goes over the top is more of a decorative solution. So you don't need to worry about the structural metalworking aspect of it. And finally, where does this actually fit in? Okay, I think the benefit here is it sits as a midpoint between a more simple aluminium metal door construction and a fully custom, fully sick, fully hectic, crazy, custom engineered solution like this Custom Industrial double offset pivot, double bearing, crazy shit going on. Okay, this is like full insane shit. This is like very basic, dare I say, hot take, a little bit ugly. And then obviously you can get nicer European profiles like, Polyform and all the other guys that make cool, really cool aluminium door profiles. But I think for the Australian market especially, we perceive that as being a little bit cheap, dare I say. So I'd say this is a good midway point between those solutions. Okay, so let's go through our final little bonus, which are some tech tips that you could pass on to your cabinet maker. Now, when you're mortising the carcass, when you're cutting into the carcass to mount the hinge, I suggest using a domino machine to get really deep because it's a very deep mortise as opposed to, running a big safety risk with a super long router bit. Number two, when you're fitting the hinge into the carcass, I would suggest plugging the fixing point using a timber dowel and then screwing into the dowel. It's just going to be stronger than screwing into end grain MDF. Also consider using a longer stainless steel screw for that. Stainless steel just to match the finish of the hinge. And third, please consider the total weight and the functionality and all the other design considerations you need to make for the door. This is just a guide. Read the manufacturer's instructions. And if you're designing metal doors on your current project, dare I say, on this exact job, you also have some stone doors. So why don't you click into this video where we go through our stone door and drawer front solution.